AJ, thanks so much for doing this. AJ Roberts is going to be talking about Everwebinar. I've got to tell you, this AJ, first of all, I should greet you and say hi. Thank you for being here. I'm a New Yorker who just gets right down to business. And when I say that, people say, hey, I'm coming to New York. Can we hang out? And I realize I'm not in New York anymore. I'm in sunny California. Everyone's like having a good time. And I'm the only one's like, let's get down to business. I can't even take a moment and acknowledge, AJ, thank you for being here.
It's fine. It's been raining here, so it feels like New York right now.
Where are you? Are you in New York? Where are you?
I'm in San Diego, yeah.
Okay. So I'll tell you, this to me is totally selfish. I asked AJ here for selfish reasons, and I know that if you follow along and get what I'm looking for from this, your business is going to explode. Here's why. I started Bot Academy about 2-3 years ago now as a place to teach people how to create chatbots so that they could get clients who will pay them to build chatbots to grow the clients' businesses. And the way that I bought a bunch of Facebook ads, I've got miles up the wazoo. My wife loves to travel. She is going to be able to travel from all over the world just using the miles that I get from buying a bunch of Facebook ads. I'm not against buying ads. I'm not against trying lots of different techniques for growing an audience. The number one way, though, that has worked for me to grow our customer base, our audience base at Bot Academy is to do webinars. And the reason for that is that people will show up to webinars, or first of all, they'll register for webinars because it seems like a personal session. You are here. Hundreds of you are now here watching me live. Martin, Luz, Joe, a bunch of people using the name admin, AJ, Alex, Aletta, all of you guys are watching me live. There's a sense of urgency about watching a webinar, but there's also a sense of presence with so much grabbing our attention when you're signing up to a webinar. You know you're going to be present and watching and learning. So that's why people will register to webinars. That's why people show up to webinars where they don't spend much time watching reading a long form article on our site, and then they pay attention for an hour and they get to learn. And so for us, not just 10% of our customers come from webinars, not just part of our marketing mix. To say 90% of our customers at Bot Academy come from webinars is an understatement. I'm only saying that because I don't know the exact number. It's probably something like 98, 99%. And I go to conferences, I buy Facebook ads, I do all that, 90+% because of all that special. And the number one question that comes up in all these webinars is, will this be recorded? And so what we do is, yes, we do record it. I'm hitting record on this right now. I expect it's going to work, and we publish it. And the truth is that the recording experience for people, the recorded version, is not as good as the live version. And so I bought Everwebinar. My own money, I paid for it. I believe Maricela on our team bought Everwebinar. Again, my money too, like the company money, but she bought it. So it's not like we ever asked them for a freebie to join in. We bought it. I ran into some challenges doing it, probably because I'm not super focused on it. And nevertheless, 2-3 weeks ago, I did it. I didn't do it right. I screwed it up. I was so frustrated. I remember saying to Michael, our developer on our team, I'm sorry, we spent all these ads to get people this webinar recording. The webinar recording sucked. I screwed it up. I'm just feeling really bad about it. And Mike goes, are you out of your mind? We doubled our conversions from that. I go, but it's full of technical issues. He goes, yeah, we doubled our recording. I go, I got to get this right. If my screw up doubles our orders from the recording of our webinar, then imagine what would happen if I actually did it right. And so that's why I invited AJ Roberts on here. I said, selfishly, I know how webinars do. Yeah. Recorded webinars do well for us too. A bad recording with Everwebinar is better than the recording that we usually do. I got to get it to you. So if you're out there listening to me, that's a long spiel to say you've got to learn how to do webinars. And I will tell you, if you don't know how to do webinars, one of the best, easiest things to do is say, I'm just going to walk you through how my stuff works, and I'll answer questions. And if there's only one person watching, who cares? Because nobody else will know it. And I'm going to record this version, and then I'm going to put it online and have people come on. That is a simple first version that will beat my first version. And then you could just keep improving and improving it. So if you don't know how to do webinars, I will talk to you about that later. If you don't know how to do recorded webinars, hey, I'm with you. I did a really crappy job. We're going to learn how to do recorded webinars in a way that gives people a good experience, not just like a second best. How's that, AJ?
Yeah, I mean, I should take you everywhere to talk about Everwebinar.
I'm on a freaking tear, and I'm also the kind of person, I don't know if you are, who I'm looking at the time, I go 11:38 a.m. Pacific. That means I I did take an extra minute to make my tea, maybe another minute to start. That means I went on a tear here for what, 5 minutes talking to people without letting you talk?
No, that's totally fine. It's good to hear the passion. I think that one of the things you mentioned there is that about getting it done and then improving it. I think that that's the big misconception people have, especially if you're doing a recorded webinar, is, okay, I've got to perfect my live webinar, or I have to perfect it first. And as you can see, like even something that isn't, perfection makes a big difference. And a lot of that, and we'll get into it, of course, but a lot of that comes down to being able to recreate that live experience, and anyone who goes to a live event or watches live, it's very different because there's a presence to the attendee. They're focused, they're in there. When it's a recording, automatically, mentally, they switch off and know that they can check their phone, they can scroll, they want to scroll because they know, okay, at the end there's an offer. Do I want to listen to the offer? Is there content along the way? And so without recreating that live experience, you lose a lot of the psychological benefits from that. And so ultimately, that's where Everwebinar came from. We're doing live webinars, and we got frustrated with sending out the recording and having those low conversions, and said, what if we could just recreate this live experience so that no matter when someone came on, we can do that. And on top of that, the benefit, of course, as a speaker is now you can be live every single day without you having to be live every single day. And of course, there is benefit still if you wanted to do that, but not everybody can. Not everybody designs their business around that. Not everybody has the opportunity to do that. And so, you'll hear people say, you've got to go live every day. You've got to do this every day. But the reality is most business owners don't have the time for that. And so if you can have one presentation that works, why not be able to recreate that experience for the end user? You improve the experience for the end user and improve your results for the business. And so it's a win-win for everybody, I feel. And I think that that's something that you touched on. I just thought that it was just such a great point.
I would even suggest that, I know that doing daily is too much for live webinars. I'd suggest that you don't just set it and forget it when it comes to your automated webinars. I know that AJ is about to give us software that will enable you to do that. You could record a good webinar and just keep running it for years, put a link on your website saying, get the webinar, learn, and then keep running it for years. I'd actually recommend that you do this every other week, if not once a month. So every, either twice a month or once a month, just re-record it. Be in touch with live. You guys know I'm freaking obsessed with your live chats. Like what Sean is saying, I'm obsessed with it. Thank you, Sean, for saying that you're looking forward to this. Larry's asking a question about rating. I'm going to come back to you. It helps me to see where you guys are. And so I'm urging you to do it a little bit live, and then also let the people who are not live have an experience. So one of the reasons why I like to do live is I can react to people's questions, but I can also learn from them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a poll right now, and I'm going to ask you guys, if you're listening to us right now, have you done a webinar yet? Yes or no? Have you ever done a webinar? Yes or no? And we're going to put it right up there. Have you done a webinar? Yes or no? And I'm going to close out this poll in, wow, a big percentage of you guys are responding. So I was going to say I'm going to close it out in a second, but you know what? Let's give it 10 more seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. I think I've got a gist of it here. The vast majority of you guys have not done webinars before. So you do not yet know the power of a webinar to teach, to build relationships with your customer, and then yes, to sell. And I'm going to urge you to keep it super simple when you're starting with your first webinar. You're going to get a superpower here in the knowledge of how to do it as a recorded process. You're also going to get a superpower in the software that will enable you to do it. What you are going to be tempted to do is just overthink it. Here's what I'm going to suggest to you. I was the first user of a software called Zapier. These guys have been blowing it up. I know some people call it Zapier. I remember watching the founder of that company. It wasn't even me, AJ. It was this woman who we hired. She was sitting right here, and she said, "I'm going to go to this Zapier webinar." And so I walked over and I looked and I saw it was freaking Wade, the founder of the company, sitting there with 3 people watching him as he answered their questions about what his software did, and then showed them the things that he was most impressed by. And I remember at the time going, poor Wade, he is so like bad off. Only 3 people watch his webinar. Why is he even bothering? What a shame. And then it occurred to me, he was teaching those 3 people. She became like this evangelist for him. He got better at teaching how his software worked. He learned what was working and what was not so he could improve it. He learned how to explain it. And then the software got better. The way he explained it got better. The audience size grew to the point now if he did a webinar, forget it. The audience size would be mind-blowing. This guy's now got one of the hottest Silicon Valley startups. So I'm going to say to you, think back to what Wade was, that 3-person thing. It's totally fine. He had no freaking slide. He had no presentation. It was just like, here's my software. Here's what I love about it. Ask me any question. And when you're done asking questions and when I'm done talking about it, it's done. So if you're selling something like chatbot services, I urge you to set it up as a webinar. If you're doing something that you're especially good at, just set it up as a webinar. See if you can get leads, and don't even sell anything if you're not comfortable selling. All right.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point there. You said about, not necessarily selling. I think that most people, when they think a webinar, or when they think a presentation, right? Anyone who thinks presentation, we know 75% of people are terrified of public speaking. And so they immediately think they either have to be on camera like this, or they have to have a slide deck prepared. They don't really think it's just a conversation. And I think that, the great thing we have now more than ever before is we have so many examples of people who are doing it in different styles. And so it's kind of like, if you're scared of being on camera, do the slides, that's fine. Or do a product demo where it's just live and you're walking through. You don't even have to have the slides prepared. There's no rules on the length of the webinars. I know people who do 30-minute webinars and absolutely crush it. I know people who are doing 2-hour to 4-hour webinars that are crushing it. So again, it comes down to, just like you said, getting started, starting to learn that. And what you'll discover is you'll naturally start to see, okay, what works with my audience, what doesn't work with my audience. And templates are great. They make a big difference for a lot of people. But at the end of the day, the audience that you're building around the product you're creating, that tribe is going to give you feedback. You're going to see, you're going to be able to highlight stuff. And ultimately, you're going to evolve and develop. And like you mentioned, you start with 3 and then you end up with tens of thousands of people joining these things.
Yeah.
That's really what it is, because what the webinars do, what live presentations do, and then what the ability to automate that do is it basically allows the person to be there with you. And that's where reality TV has blown up, in the TV world, because people, they want to break the third wall. They want to be there with you. They don't want to feel like you're some company that they don't have a connection to, or they can't ask questions. And that's where it comes into play. And so, just to talk about how great webinars are, the cool thing when you can automate that is, like you mentioned, even if you did it once a month with that chat, Everwebinar allows you to have that chat rolling so people can actually participate, and they can ask questions that then will get emailed to you, so you can actually see.
We've done that. Yes, that's what happened. It was like everyone who would chat in. First of all, if I asked a question in my webinar, like, have you tried a chatbot? And people responded, everyone got to see the response, even if they came to it a week after the webinar was posted and recorded. And if they typed in their own question, it went to me via email and I could respond right back to them. Okay, AJ. Let's go into Everwebinar. What we've been doing with everyone is asking them to just turn on their screen. So I'd love for you to turn on screen share and just kind of walk us through it and go through what we need to know. So you should have screen sharing power. If you don't, let me know. I know that this has been an issue for us.
I do, but where is the screen that I want to share?
Yeah, make sure you're not sharing. You might want to turn on your do not disturb. If anyone out there has got an audience or a following of people who do webinars, who's curious about webinars, I think it would serve your audience well to tell them, hey, come webinars, right? They're going to learn how to do follow-up webinars really well, and they're going to get software. All you have to do is just tell them to go to botacademy.com/live. So you can say, if you're interested in doing webinars, you're going to get some free training and free software right now at botacademy.com/live. And AJ, direct from Everwebinar, is going to walk us through it. So AJ, here's what I'd suggest. I'm going to just be here on camera as you get started, but then I'm going to take my camera off so that people can focus on you and your material. And from time to time, because I'm a bit of a loudmouth, especially as an advocate for my audience, if they ask a question, I'm going to bring my camera up and make sure that you hear it. Cool?
Yeah, please do.
Okay, and guys, if you can freaking find it, I know it's a little bit challenging to find our chat here, but if you can find the chat button, I love to hear from you, even if it's just, hey, Andrew found the chat button. I'm here for you guys live. Anyone else could have just said, AJ, run with it. I'm going to sit at home and I'm going to have coffee. Screw that. I'm here even if I want to see Eric saying I found it and Jay saying yep and Mina saying Everwebinar. Thank you all for even participating a tiny bit here. I'm here because I care about you guys. I'm going to turn my camera off and focus on your chat while AJ does the training.
Great. All right, cool. So the cool thing with Everwebinar is that once you actually have the webinar, it's fairly simple to set up and get going. And then it is a case of just going back. And so this is inside the dashboard here, very, very simple. And of course, we have these videos, but let's get right into setting it up so you can see how fast it can be done. So when you create your first webinar, evergreen webinar, the first thing you actually have to have is a recorded webinar. And so you can either have this as an MP4 file that you've perfected, had edited, and done all that. And a lot of people, what they'll do is do a live webinar and then go back, script it out, redo it so they can continue to improve it. But one of our other softwares is Webinar Jam. You can do a live session. So we did a demo live session just to make this super fast, that we're just going to import from there. And when we import this, it's going to import the chat. It's going to import everything like that. So you don't have to manually set it up. So it's very, very simple to do. So as that's importing, basically what it allows you to do is choose how you want to import your webinar. And when you import it, it's going to go through and set up these basic configurations. So very, very simple. The next is obviously set the schedule for the webinar, and you have to pick at least one time. So if you wanted to do it daily, or you wanted to offer the automated webinar multiple times a day, which some people like to do, you just have to pick one time here. So I'm going to switch it to Pacific, and we're just going to do 1 p.m. And what's really, really cool is that if you want, obviously the idea of an automated webinar is to make it feel live. So we're probably not going to want to allow them to watch a replay. However, if they attend the live webinar, we want them to watch a replay, we can add this. But this next feature, this just-in-time feature.
Wait, I'm sorry. Let me ask a question about this.
Yeah.
Right now, what you're saying above is I'm scheduling the replay as if it's a webinar, and for people to watch it, they have to be there at 1 p.m. Pacific in order to watch it. They can't just be there at midnight, right?
Exactly. So it appears like on registration, everything appears like it's going to be a specific time. And the good thing the really cool thing about this is that when you have someone who can immediately watch the webinar versus someone who schedules to watch the webinar, obviously the person who schedules, if they show up, which obviously there's many things you can do to improve show up rate, but when they show up, they're more attentive. And I kind of look at it like a lot of people are so focused about, how many people who click register, how many people who register show up. But I always think the person who shows up, that is the person who is going to give you the undivided attention. And so by selecting these times, it allows you to do that. However, because of the way people operate now, we do live in a culture that is very much, I want things immediately. We have these just-in-time schedules.
Okay.
Now, this allows them to watch a replay, but ultimately, it's saying, hey, the webinar, you're just in time, the webinar started, like you can join the webinar, and it'll allow them to join as if it is live, or if it was recorded. And so you can, if you want, you can have it as you can have them where if they miss the webinar, they can watch a regular replay, or you could have these just in time that allows them to show up and they feel like they're sneaking in the back door and joining it while it's in process.
Oh, wait. So I'm actually going to follow up with a question that we've gotten from Alita, who's saying, hey, I've heard it helps to not say this webinar is starting right now, but to say it's starting in 15 minutes. And so you've done that here on the bottom with the simulate real world practices, where you're saying it's about to start in 15 minutes. That's what that option is. Yeah. Or there's one where it can start as if the webinar is in progress.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So,
okay.
So depending on the way you set it up, it allows you to ultimately pick and choose these different options. And what's really, really cool is, again, some people say, well, ethically it's not live. And so, we recommend people maybe just change the language that they use. Maybe it's a master class versus a webinar or a live, it's up to you where you go on that, and how you want to frame that. But really this allows you to pick and choose how you want your webinar to show up. And so that it's still, people still believe they're registering for an event. And that's the key. They're registering for an event. That changes obviously in terms of the, the relationship between you and the attendee. They immediately see you as they're coming to you to show up to watch something. So once we have the schedule set up, it's really, really simple. The rest of it just goes through, and we have templates in place, and I'll show you these real quick, but you can see the average registration rates. And this is, we have over 35,000 users. And so these numbers are compiled by people using them. And again, it's average. So some people who customize these get much higher opt-in rates, but these are the average. And so you can go through and you can choose which template you want to use. And these are all set up. So you don't need another landing page or anything like that. From another piece of software.
Can you hit that top one, the one with the woman with that's the one that I've used. Can you just show us what that looks like?
Yeah, so this is what it would look like.
And so it would show the next one starting in 15 minutes if that's what we picked, or the dates that we picked, etc.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it's showing 95 days here. It must be the way I set it up, but
okay.
But ultimately, yeah, this is just a preview. So,
and we can easily change that photo. I'm not using the photo of her with that. I'm using a photo of myself there, right?
Yeah, everything's customizable, and that's really, if we wanted to go in and edit, it's just really simple. You're just uploading it from your own computer. It'll pull, and you can just select the file. You can change the color of any of these, and so you have quite a bit of flexibility over it. And if, for example, you, for whatever reason, you wanted to use your own landing page builder, maybe you were building something in, let's say you had Kartra, or you had Lead Pages, or you had one of these other, sites that allows you to build pages, and you don't want to use the Webinar Jam, you can easily integrate with Everwebinar and use your own landing page. So if you wanted to keep something separate from this, it's very, very easy for you to do and use whatever pages. And so you can go through, you can edit all these. Are the very simple. What's really, really cool, if you wanted to charge for your webinar, so this is what gets into, if you're running webinars, but you don't want to just offer them as free, you want to do paid webinars, you could do donate to charity webinars. You can easily set up charge for the webinar. And so you can actually put this in place and integrate it with your shopping cart, and it'll allow you to charge for webinars. If you just want to password protect it, you can do that as well and give that to attendees. So, this goes through. What's also really cool is we have built-in notifications. So again, you can integrate with outside email systems if you want to, or you can use our built-in automation emails. And again, these are all editable. You can add more, so you can do as much as you want. So depending on what process you have, you can use these. We found, very, very good to get people to show up. The replay and the follow-up emails, that's where a lot of the people and a lot of the money comes from. And if you want to integrate with a text message service, we do that also. So, as you can see here, we've made it so that you can just use Everwebinar, or if you want, you can go and plug into your own, CRM or whatever it is you're using for those.
CRM meaning Active Campaign, MailChimp, etc.
Yeah, and so here's some of the ones we have: Active Campaign, Entreport, Kartra, ConvertKit. But if you don't see something on here, we integrated with Zapier, one of the top integration partners with Zapier, and that's just so that you can pretty much plug anything you want into here. And they've done a great job of making that super, super simple. So we kind of stopped trying to build out integrations with every individual platform, because it just, Zapier makes it so much simple. So it's really easy to do.
And just to be clear, guys, what that means is someone registers to your webinar, you want them also on your email list so that you can follow up with them. We can talk later on about people who are trying to do this using Lead Pages or ClickFunnels or other landing page software. Let's save those questions for later. But trust me, it can be done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So what's next now that we've done this? Affiliate link into your webinar?
Yeah. So if you wanted to become like an affiliate partner for Everwebinar, basically you can integrate this, and then so it'll add a little footer that says powered by Webinar Jam. So if you were into business to business and you think your users may be interested in purchasing this, you could sign up as an affiliate, and it will just show that in the link that says powered by. But again, we make that optional so that a lot of people, they're not necessarily wanting their audience to go off to something different. But we added that in at the request of the users who wanted to be able to promote simultaneously. And then of course your tracking, if you want to add third-party tracking, you can easily drop code in here.
And that's helpful for Facebook ads.
Exactly. And like knowing if someone shows up to the actual webinar and being able to track them, so you can, like you said, I imagine with chatbots and with the ads, you can do reminders and stuff via that as well, which makes it fantastic. So once you have all that set up, ultimately, just a thank you page, which again, you can customize it if you want. Again, we have templates in here, so it makes it really, really easy to do. You can do one-time offers if you wanted to put a one-time offer on there. And again, once it's, you just link it to your sales page. And then if you wanted to survey your registrations before they sign up, you can do a thank you page survey. A lot of people would do this to get questions ahead of time and things like that. So again, it just gives you another option. And we try to think of everything that like people who were saying, hey, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. And so this is actually our third full iteration of the software where we continue to improve it. And really the fun starts here. And as you can see, this has been pre-populated a lot from the webinar that I pulled over. But if you hadn't, you could set this all up from scratch. Ultimately, you know, if you want to ask polls like we did, Andrew did earlier, where he asked, you know, if you had ran a webinar, you can pre-configure a poll. So now your polls will show up, you know, in the replay, just like they did live.
And so people can actually respond to the poll too.
Exactly. And we found that interaction is really the key, right? To make them feel as if they are there live, they can participate.
And you know what, even if they're not feeling like it's there live and they know it's a recording, I just find that having one more thing to do shakes things up. And so I create these polls to learn, but also to just give people one more thing to click on, one more thing to be a part of.
Yeah, and that's so important. I think that if I had to say the one thing that I've seen increase webinar conversions and stick from beginning to end, it's interaction. You know, being able to talk to the audience, to ask a question, to run a poll, those things make all the difference in the world. And so we wanted to make sure, even with your automated recording, that you can add these features in. And so again, you can add polls, you can customize your chat. So this pulled over from the chat. So because we had done a demo, we put that in. So it will actually pull the live chat that you had over, or if you wanted to, you can create your own and import it into here. So if you're not using Webinar Jam and you're using something else and you have the chat role, a lot of them will allow you to export it, and then you can just import that in here. And of course, you can edit it at any time. So if you want to, you can add, you can take away, you can do whatever you feel is needed. And again, we have some more options here. If you want to to make an offer, you can actually have a button that appears and they can click the button to take the offer. So you can build your offers out in here. At the end of the webinar, you can redirect wherever you want if you want to. You can have different sticky messages that pop to the top of the screen in the chat role. So as the webinar goes on, if there's different things that are important, we can do that. Display the number of attendees, live sales alerts. So if you run a live webinar and you're selling, a lot of times, you know, I know a lot of people haven't run webinars. You've probably attended a webinar and you've seen this where someone will make the offer and then maybe they'll go into Q&A for another 30 minutes. A lot of the times, things that will really help, you know, social proof of other customers purchasing, you can do these live sales alerts. And so at the certain points during that, like last 30 minutes of Q&A, you could have every couple of minutes something popping saying, you know, such and such just purchased, congratulations. You can add these things in. Because it makes a difference. We used to do this live. When we went live, we would just announce it live. But we built this in so you can do that. And then, of course, if you have...
And by the way, that does happen. And for the longest time, I would just watch and see people are buying. People are going over. It's great. And I would keep it to myself. And then I started announcing it. And that was really exciting. I started to see more sales coming in. And I would even announce the person's name, which was interesting, to say, this person's name just bought. Really powerful. And I know that using Webinar Jam, your webinar software, I think I could even automate that. When somebody buys, I get an alert. I don't have to go into my shopping cart software and see it, and then I could announce it. It's interesting to see that this is available even on the repeat. So people could see there are purchases being made. And I know that a lot of webinars are not about sales. I still think it's when it is about sales, it's helpful to show people that there are sales. There is something going on.
Yeah, and it's all just little things, psychological things that make a difference. And like I said, you know, this is happening. And so, you know, obviously recognizing the person for making the choice to move forward, but also showing other people that, you know, people are moving forward, gets them into action. And, you know, obviously this goes back to if you ever attend a live presentation at a seminar or something like that, someone makes an offer from the stage, you know, everybody's kind of waiting for that first person. You know, and then immediately as it begins to move, they all feel a little bit more comfortable getting up. That's what we found, the same thing. It's kind of like once they see someone else has gone over, it gives them the confidence to do that. So it's a really great feature. And then lastly, a lot of people offer to get someone to stick from the beginning to the end of the webinar. They'll say at the end of the webinar, we're going to give out the slides from the presentation, or we're going to give out a special, you know, I've seen people, you know, the 5 ads that we ran, we're going to give you that. So you can actually preload that in here.
Let me say this. This is really helpful, guys. if you do any kind of webinar, and I could talk to you later on if you've never done a webinar, you're not sure what to do first, don't overcomplicate it. I can give you a simple one. But here's a simple technique to get people to stick around. Give them something at the end. It's super simple. It could be as easy as, people ask me for slides all the time. You could just say, I'll give you the slides. It could be as simple as, here's a resource list of all the software that I use to do the thing that I just gave you training on. And I'm going to give it to you at the end of the session. And it makes sense to give it to them at the end of the session because you first want to show them what it is. It doesn't make sense unless the session is done. You're seeing that I do this, frankly, right now, where I say AJ is going to be giving you free software, free access at the end of the session. I don't just give it away right now. The beginning, first, number one, AJ is going to get a bunch of people who are going to sign up at the beginning who have no knowledge of his software. What's the point? Number two, I do want you guys to get the training because I don't think software alone is going to change your world. Number three, it's just good practice. Wait till the end when people can learn and then go try out the software. If you're not doing that, you're missing out. It's the simplest way to get not just to get people to stick around towards the end. And I didn't realize, actually, I had no idea that that's the way that you guys do this, that it's part of the software. So I could say, by the way, guys, I'm teaching you all this. I know the big question I'm going to have is everyone's going to ask for a slide. Everyone's going to ask for whatever resource list. You'll automatically get it when the session's over. You can take this and go, right? That's what we're talking about.
Exactly. And we just wanted to make it so anything you can do live, you can also do automated so that there's no difference between the experience.
By the way, I went through every freaking thing that you're saying. I'm not cursing intentionally because I know that we've got a broad audience that I usually do. I went through every part of this and I still missed the fact that I could have done that. And instead I come up with this hacky way to do it by telling people go to this URL and that it's over. I'm glad to see that this is part of the software. Okay.
Yeah. And that's the cool thing, you know, as you go through, you'll start to see a lot of stuff you can do. And we, you know, we have a whole team. We have Q&A call every week that people can jump on and ask questions as well. So there's always help there. Obviously, I know you're really, really busy, Andrew. I don't expect you to jump on one of those calls, but, you know, for everybody else. And then if you want to do a webinar replay page, so it does, you know, you still can run it, the full experience as a live webinar where they, you know, they show up, maybe they leave early and you need to send the replay. You know, we found that, you know, really good, you know, campaign, 40% of your sales will come after the actual webinar if you're really, really dialed in. And so we didn't want to not have the replay there. So we have it available if you want to add the replay page in so you can send people to that. And then once you have that configured and you're set up, you're good to go. And then it's going to show you where your links are. So we'll go over to the main dashboard. It's just going to show you this. And of course, your links are what's important, just like you would if you were going to have someone register. If you wanted to log in, you have a control center. So you can still actually log in live during the presentation. And one thing, so Sam Ovens, he owns consulting.com, and he used webinars basically to build up an 8-figure plus business. And one of the things he does is he actually has a team of people who sit there during his automated webinars and actually will respond in the chat live. And so even though the video is recorded and the replay is going, Sam doesn't have to show up. He has a team of moderators there to be able to communicate with those that do show up live. And it made a big difference for him to be able to do that. And so it's very, very cool. We have that built in, of course, so you can do that. And then, of course, if you want to see the webinar in motion, you can easily just view that. And I'll pause. It's going to ask me for a quick login. So
you can pause your screen share if you're about to. Oh, good. I thought you were about to put a password in.
No. That's just, I just use the company email there. Makes it. Oh, you know what? It's because let me pause the screen. it's because I'm already logged in as the presenter. So
what you could do is just put it into incognito mode and bring that up.
Yeah. So. All right, so once I'm in, basically, you know, I'd have to click play here, and I don't want to. It's just because I don't have it set up properly. I didn't set the recording, so that's why. But anyway, I just wanted to show the room, but it's not going to work because of the way we set it up. But
wait, you were about to show us what it looks like when somebody comes in to watch it?
Yeah, I was.
What do we need to do to make that work?
Let me go back to the replay and see here in the replay, because I think I had the replay turned off. So I might have just had the wrong link here. Oh yeah, I'll come back. I'll come back to this. So I did want to discuss this too.
Okay. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I do want to
No,
see what that looks like.
yeah,
And if it
before we
helps,
go.
you can just share that with me in our private chat, and then I'll be able to show it.
Um, yeah, let me. Sorry, I'm dealing with the Zoom on the screen as well.
Cool.
So, doo, doo, doo.
Let me take a look at some of the questions that have been coming in. A big question that came in earlier was, what happens, and AJ, I'll answer the questions while you're setting this up. I know it's kind of awkward that I'm putting you on the spot, but I think it's important for us to see what it looks like when people register, if it's possible. And if it's not, we'll find another way to show it. But a big question is, what happens with the chat and questions that people have after the session is over? And someone was asking, can you send it via text? Can you send it via this? Can you send it via that? Here's the solution. It comes via email, and then email is so universal, you can send it anywhere. You can send it into your help software. You can have it forwarded to your phone. You can have alerts set up for it. So yes, absolutely, you can get an alert when somebody wants to do this.
Yeah. So
and Barbara, sorry, go ahead. This is the page?
Yeah, well, what I'm going to do is to let this is so when we go to this, it just has, because we had the just in time. So It shows at 1 starting in 5 minutes. So we can answer some questions. I'm going to go back and show some stuff there. And what we'll do is we'll come back to this page when it logs in. So let's keep answering.
So this is what it looks like when the session is about to start. Okay. Another question is, what's the difference between this and Webinar Jam's replay feature?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great question. So the replay feature in Webinar Jam, basically, it is ultimately a recorded webinar. So they know it's recorded. It shows up as being recorded. Ultimately, it's not going to come in as if it is live, right? And so that's a big thing that we had with a lot of people. A lot of people asked that is, ultimately the Webinar Jam is for live webinars. And so the replay of that is basically, it's just the replay of the live webinar. You don't have the opportunity to add in all these features that we have in Everwebinar.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Webinar Jam is webinar software that frankly makes chatting much easier than what people are experiencing now, and it has a bunch of other features. But one of them is it will automatically turn into a replay page. I mean, the webinar view page automatically turns into a replay page with some of the features that we're looking at here, but not all of them. So one of the features would be the ability to chat afterwards and have that chat message go to your team or your own phone so that you can respond to people. Exactly. Let's see if we've got other questions coming in here. From a chatbot perspective, what are the key features to discuss to improve client conversions within a webinar? Here's what I would do, Rick. First of all, I'm not fully clear on your question, and I'd love it if you can turn your mic on in a moment and ask it. One thing that I think is it's just an easy win for you guys. You know how to use chatbots. Do a free webinar where you do nothing but teach chatbots. You could at the end say, by the way, I'm accepting some consulting clients. If you want to work with me, here's a page where you can go and do it. But if you offer some free training on that, that would be helpful. If you offer free training on some of the marketing automation software that you already use and like show people how to use your own email software, the one that you use. Do it live, then record it so that it's always available, and it just goes into your library. And I mean literally, this is something that I learned from Laura Roeder. She would find software that she used, like Twitter, frankly. And then she would just show the screen how she clicked and did the step by step by step. And that was a webinar. That was training that she eventually charged for. You don't have to overthink it and do slides. I started out with chatbots. I just showed people how to use ManyChat. I would click by click by click, show them how it's done. And then it eventually became a little tedious for me to keep clicking, and there'd be issues where my connection was a little bit slow. And I turned it into videos. But it could be just as simple as that. And if you're doing consulting services at the end, say, hey, I'm here. This is me, the person on camera who does this service. If you want me to do your chatbot creation for you, if you want me to, whatever it is that you're showing, here's a way to book with me. And it could just be yoursite.com/book or Calendly/book or whatever it is that you're using. I hope that helps. Sean saying, great idea for a library of sellable content. Yeah, that's what's built into Everwebinar, where, tell me if I'm wrong, you could, once you have this library, keep it for free, but also eventually say, here's 7 trainings that I did about how to use this email software, how to use this email collection software, how to use chatbot. And if you want to watch any one of these sessions, you just pay a small fee. Am I right?
Absolutely. And, we have quite a few people who, the launch model has kind of fatigued a little bit. And so what they'll end up doing is they'll create a product live. And so they'll do a launch and they'll actually walk everyone through the entire process live. And those that attend live for the 3 days in a row, get to see that in motion. And then they'll take that and they'll charge for that content. And so now, what they spent, maybe 3 days, 4 hours a day creating a new piece of content, they'll turn that into a product. And so it gives people different ways to do that. And you can pretty much take that however you want. While we're waiting for that page countdown, we're almost there. I just want to show this before, because this is the last cool piece. But a lot of people, the advanced settings, if you're really tracking everything, you have your KPIs in place in terms of, you want to know, how much is your cost per attendee, cost per sale, etc., like that. We have the ability for you to add a lot of this stuff in through API integration, one-click registrations, and goal tracking. And so we built a lot of this in so that you could easily, set that stuff up. So for those of you, maybe you say, hey, where's all that tracking stuff? It's right here at the end. So we've kind of tried to think of everything for everyone, because we'd like to build everything how we like to use it. And a lot of, our different software, basically it came from frustration of trying to piece together multiple different things. And so that's kind of where this all comes from.
And so the question that we had earlier about what happens if I'm using lead pages to collect registrations, you know what? Since this is almost happening, I'll save that question. I know the answer. It has to do with the page that you just had there on your screen. But exactly. I like that we're actually getting to see the countdown experience that people have, where they will leave this on their screen. They will be waiting for that moment to happen. And it does feel like I've waited. I've earned it. It's great because I have earned it.
Exactly. So it'll
there we go. Connecting to room. Look at that. I like that we're getting to see this. I'm glad that I was a bit of a jerk and insisted on seeing it. Good. And then
this will just continue on. So start. I don't know why this. I mustn't have exported the video correctly. So
that's okay. I'm getting a sense of how the video. I've never seen that issue, but I'm getting the video part is easy. Let's look at the chat part on the right. Whenever an actual chat happens in real time, that will show up. So if AJ is asking, does this make sense? And somebody who's watching live responds, says yes, that will show up at the time of the video where he's asking that question. If someone types in a question or a chat, that will go to you via email. Am I right, AJ?
Correct. And they can add that in here, and you can set up those rules, and you can have ask a question, you can have chat. So depending on what you want. And then from the admin side, I can be editing these. So from the admin side, what's really, really cool, again, because I was mentioning Sam and what he does with his team, but from the presenter's side, you have the control center. And then you have, it has each person, I guess we set up 2 different accounts here. But when I look at this, you'll see now from this side, I can actually view this. I don't have to go and watch that page. I can be in here and I can see in real time the chat coming in, and I can actually respond to those people in real time if I want to. So you can still have a live component to this, as a company, without necessarily being there live for yourself. And so you can have your team sitting here answering the questions, creating the responses they need. Or like you said, you can have it sent to your email and you can respond later to those people. And it just adds another element.
And this page works on a phone. So this page will be accessible in a small version on a phone. All right, we were talking about what happens if somebody has their own landing page software, ClickFunnels, lead pages, their own WordPress site. It's right here, right? It's on, if they go into your links. So basically what you'd be doing, if I'm correct, AJ, is creating a page in lead pages. It says, do you want to come to my webinar? Enter your email address to go. They enter their email address, they hit submit, and then this is the link that you would send them to. So another way to do, I'm sorry, go ahead. And then I'll come in with the chatbot approach to this.
No, you're right. You're just integrating it. And so, cause you can pass the information back and forth. Obviously the pages we have so that you don't have to use anything else, but some people, cause of all the way they're running the ads, they're using pixels. And if they land on this page, send them to this ad. If they land on that page, send them that. They'll want to use their own thing. And so you just basically, through the integration process, you basically integrate it with whatever system you're using. And again, we have a lot built in, but Zapier allows you to do that, and it'll just push the information between the two. And so you get your links here, and then you're able to use these links. So this would actually go to the registration page, but after they register, it will.
Can I do this? Can you click on this direct link? Sorry, go back to your links.
Sorry.
No problem. And then the direct link, can you hit on that? Okay. Wait, just show it for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
I think one thing we could do is, if we're asking people to register for our webinar via chatbot, we can say, do you want to come to my webinar? even a post on Facebook that says, if you want to come to my free training on whatever software you're doing free training, just comment below. Anyone who comments below gets a chatbot message that says, can I give you a link here in chat or whatever it is that your message is? The person says yes, and then you give them right there, you give them this link that we're seeing on your screen right now. That's the way to do that. Am I right?
Yes, and that's exactly right. So if they wanted to just come straight into the webinar room, you can use this link right here. And that's what's really, really cool is that, you know, depending on what you want to do and how you want to drive people in, you can use as little or as much of the Everwebinar software as you want. You know, you get it set up, but then it's up to you how you do it, how you send, like even for the replay, once that would be set up, you know, you can use this link anywhere to send someone directly to that room. So it's completely up to you how you do that. And like I say, you know, we try to build it so that you can do it all in one place. But obviously, some people, they have everything set up somewhere else. That's where all their leads are. That's where they're, you know, pushing people over. Maybe they have email automation sequences where it says, hey, you're interested in this. And if they click over and register, it's pulling them off of the sequence. And so we wanted to make it so that it could either stand alone on its own or it could integrate smoothly with any of the systems out there so that you can continue, depending on how advanced you are, depending on your automations and your systems and the things you use, it can slide in and it doesn't create any, you know, it doesn't create another headache, so to speak.
Let me ask a few rapid fire questions, and then I want to hear what the offer is for people who are interested in this and want to use it for themselves. One comes from June. June McDonald is saying, can you offer downloads from the webinar screen, like PDFs, etc.? The answer is yes, right? Not only can you give it to them, but you can actually even time it so that it only comes at the right moment. If you're saying, in order to do this next step, you need a PDF, I'm putting it up, it shows up as soon as you said it in that recorded version. Am I right?
Absolutely. And the thing that it allows you to do is it pops like a button for that. So at that time on the chat roll, the screen, basically on that chat roll on the screen, I was hoping we could go to it, but it ultimately will pop a button at that specific time too. So not only are you talking about it, you can set that, here we go. So you put your file and then you delay when the file shows up, and it will pop in the designated time in the video. So it actually pops up on the screen at that specific time, and you can set it. And so the only difficulty is you need to know how long your webinars are, and you'll need the timestamps so you know exactly what time you want to do stuff. But you know, you can use a transcription service for that.
That's not a hard thing to do. You go into you go into your webinar, you don't even need a transcription. Just slide the video over and say, that's where I said it. What's the time? Boom. I now know. Next question from Amanda. Amanda, I like the way you're thinking about this. You're coming up with new uses for it. Amanda's saying, can you create a custom course homepage with Everwebinar that would house all your courses? If yes, can you create multiple course homepages for different disciplines or different clients? My understanding, AJ, is she would probably want to have one homepage using WordPress or some other tool, and then from there link to an Everwebinar for each one of her courses, right?
Yeah. So what's really interesting, you know, with Webinar Jam and Everwebinar, especially Everwebinar, is it allows you to use the webinar however you want, right? And so if you were using it as like like for courses, like Andrew, you're saying you're probably going to want a landing page that has all the courses on that they would individually click and purchase. One of the things we have, and I didn't mention this, because we kind of skipped over the product creation piece of it. But what I didn't mention was you actually, as you're building this, the actual product side of stuff.
Wait, are you saying I could actually create the webinar here?
We have a no, you can't create the webinar, but we actually
I didn't think so.
We have a marketplace that allows you to put your webinar into our marketplace as well. And you can actually be a part of the marketplace, so people can find you. Who, you know, it's up to you. You can select that feature, but ultimately, if you want to be a part of the marketplace, you can include your product in there. So as you were setting up, you know, you can include the webinar in that marketplace, which allows you to then basically pull traffic from the entire you know, Webinar Jam community. That is there. You don't have to be a part of it, but it is definitely something you can be a part of.
Okay. You know what? Why don't we, and I love the use of that. One more question from Miko Patton. Can you pre-record a virtual summit? This is kind of a summit, right, where we have a handful of people in together. Can we pre-record something like this and then have that summit be available, say, next week or forever?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And that's the beauty. We basically, because you can set up, so that this is what's really cool. You can set up as many, as many different, ever webinars as you want. And so if you wanted it to be in one, obviously, like this is just one long recording that we're doing today, and so this is maybe a 4-hour summit at the end of this. And so you could set it up as one big virtual summit, or you could set it up as, you could edit this and we could take each presenter and have 4 different pages, and the people can just register for what they want to attend. And so,
how hard is it to take the chat that's happening now on Zoom and configure it with the timestamps for the session? For each individual session. So
it's just if you can export it into CSV file, you can import it into Everwebinar.
With the times.
Yeah, so there's going to, obviously, you've just got to make sure the file matches and we have examples and stuff, but as long as it matches, it's able to do. And so I wouldn't say it's the simplest process, because, you've got to make sure that it's set right. But it's as simple as it can be.
And by the way, CSV is just basically something that's created in a spreadsheet. Mars is saying, can we use Samcart for the pre-recorded? Yes, we can, right? It would just be Samcart is what people pay. After they pay, you tell Samcart, send them over to this webinar.
Yes.
Okay, Deb is saying, can we have 2 people presenting at the same time? The answer is yes within the landing page. The question is, what's a good software to create the actual webinar? Can it be something like ScreenFlow or even QuickTime to record our screen one time and then publish it, right?
Yeah, you just need a place to upload it to. And so you used to be able to, just host as a private video on YouTube. And use that. The problem with that is YouTube has now really made it hard to remove their branding from the videos. And so you used to be able to add all this code in and it would strip the video out and you just have the player. And so ultimately, as long as you have a place to host it, you'll find a lot of people are using Vimeo Pro or Wistia. In Kartra, we have, the ability for you to host your video there. And so we pulled it from Webinar Jam, but really if it's an MP4 file, you pretty much can just improve it here. And so
can it be on a Google Drive folder?
I don't think so,
because you're not uploading the file, you're just playing the file from the player itself, right?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't want to give the wrong answer. Logically it should be able to do that, but I would want to test it before I say that. So we can test it.
Okay. All right. So what's the offer that we've got for our people here? They now know how to use the software. They understand the value of webinars. We will be doing more Q&A in a moment. And in fact, I'd especially love it if Amanda would let me turn on her mic. And there are a couple of other people who have been asking really spot on questions. Tila, like you, I'd love it if we can find a way to get you guys to turn on your mic so we can hear you. But AJ, what's the offer for someone who's interested and says, you know what, I think I'm ready to do it? What are we offering them?
Yeah, so we realized, obviously it was great you asked that question earlier. People are probably watching this going, is this live? Is this scripted? So Andrew and I had no idea what we were going to talk about today, other than we wanted to show you how great this was. But, it's interesting. A lot of you have not done webinars before. And so we want to give you plenty of time to be able to set that up. So if you go to, redirected here, but if you go to everwebinarfree.com, it's going to bring you to this page. And ultimately you can get 60 days of Everwebinar for free. And then choose however you want to continue on.
So wait, let me take a look at that. Can you scroll up for a little bit more? So it's right there. This is everything that we've talked about today. They have full access to it. If they scroll down a little bit further to the green part right here, it's 60 days free. Complete. You're going to do tech support even for people who are on the free plan. So 100%. They have a question, right? Yep. I've gotten really phenomenal results. I'm surprised that you guys will often respond within an hour or so to my questions, which is good because I ask detailed questions. So that's included in there. That means they'll be able to host as many webinars as they want. They can actually charge for the webinars and get payment from it, or just take a video that they already have and turn it into an Everwebinar, right? If they did something on ScreenFlow, if they did something on a Facebook Live, I think you can strip it out. I'm not going to get into how to do it, but there are ways to strip it out, even out of YouTube. Pull it out of there and then put it wherever you want. And then you can use the old content that you've got to turn it into a webinar. You can do a brand new content using free software, Webinar Jam, Zoom for webinars, anything. You get that finished product of your explanation, put it in here, and you'll be able to, for 60 days, turn it into what feels like a real live webinar that in many ways is, because when somebody asks a question, they can get a response right away. And you can set yourself up to get alerts to go, I just got a question, I'm jumping right in and getting it. And you know what? Here's the thing that I've discovered. A lot of people do not get their questions answered within a webinar. For me even, I will have ways. What you'll see once you leave this, there's a way for you to ask me a question. Here's what blows people's minds. You will understand, Tila and Amanda and all you people who are watching me, if I don't respond to you now, because you know that I'm getting a lot of chat messages. Your mind will be blown if tomorrow I follow up with the question that you had. If an hour from now, you'll when we're done, you will get your answer. So don't feel like just because it was a live webinar and someone asked a question, you didn't answer it immediately, that it's done. People love it that you care, even if it takes you a little bit longer to respond. Okay, and then what's this bonus package on the bottom?
Yeah, so, obviously, because a lot of people have never done webinars, and I anticipated that, we went ahead and we put in 3 bonuses. The first one is Webinar Genesis, and this is our basically, our training on how to run webinars successfully.
And they get to keep it even if even if after 60 days they don't want it?
Yeah, they'll get access to this forever.
Oh, good. You know what? I was thinking maybe I should do some free training for people to understand how to do a webinar. You're saying, look, no matter what, if they sign up right now by going to where? Everwebinarfree.com?
Everwebinarfree.com.
Everwebinarfree.com. When you go there, you'll automatically be redirected to this page that you see on your screen. You will get the training on how to do webinars, and you'll get the 60 days of software. Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So, and so they'll get, and then we have Webinar University, which basically, Webinar University, we interviewed 26 of the world's best marketers who are running webinars, and we basically grilled them. And so we turned that into a training series that you can go through, and you can listen to these, 7-8-figure business owners who are running webinars and get their best tips. And so we'll have access to that. And then lastly, we have the 5 laws of successful webinars. And basically, we just broke down the 5 most important things: how to get people to register, how to get people to show up, how to get people to stay to the end, how to increase conversions, and then basically how to take a webinar and automate it. And so regardless of whether you decide to do automated webinars or whether you just going to continue doing webinars, this will be a resource that you guys can keep using. Again, it's totally free with this, but I didn't want people who had never run a webinar to be like, I don't know how to do it. So we wanted to include that. And again, 60 days, and then they can sign up. We have a money back guarantee, so if you, well, for whatever reason, it's free, but if you purchase and you don't like it or whatever, you can ask for your money back. And then, of course, super easy to cancel. You just tell us you want to cancel. We don't make it hard. We don't want to make you jump through loops.
I will say this, full disclosure. I signed up. I paid. I asked for my money back. I got my money back. And then I said, I made a mistake. And this is before we ever had any connection with you. And then I went back and I bought it again. And then again, Maricela bought it too. So we actually have it on 2 different accounts, one under my name with like a bunch of numbers at the end. Okay. Oh, there. It's up on the screen for those of you who want it. Everwebinarfree.com is the URL where you can get that.
Yeah. And so, like I said, the beautiful thing is that we've had people, and this is what's crazy. We had people who might be skeptical and say, I don't really believe that this is better than this. And so we had someone who had a video sales letter that they were using, just a standard video, wasn't even wrote as a webinar, wasn't even created as a webinar. It was a video sales letter they were running. And they put it into Everwebinar and ran traffic to it just like they were before, but used the framing of this live event, and it out converted their VSL, just driving traffic to it. So it's one of those things where the magic in this, and I think it's important to people to understand, is if you're going to do live webinars all the time, fantastic. But if you have if you have a presentation that works, that's converting, being able to automate it and run it at times that you're unavailable, but it's more convenient to the end user, to the attendee, is going to improve your conversions. And the beautiful thing with that is you don't have to lose any of the experience. And that's really, I think, key for people to understand. It's like, imagine if you were watching this as a replay, but you didn't really know it was a replay. And that doesn't take anything away, but you feel like you're here, you're with us, you're able to answer questions, do that. That's what we're talking about here. And I think that that's kind of where we see a lot of people succeed, is they're able to use live webinars. They test. And then when they feel like they have a great one, they'll move forward with it. And then on the flip side of that, because you can edit it at any point in time, you don't lose anything that you had before, and you can continue to improve. And for people like you and I, you're probably numbers driven too. You're always looking at that and say, oh, okay, at the 20-minute mark, we had a huge drop off. Okay, let's look at that. Where do we get stale? What do we need to change? And then now you can test it again. And that's what's beautiful with this, is it's giving you feedback on something that you in the past would have to continuously present live over and over and over again. Now you can set it up and you can run traffic to it. You can test it. You can see where people are excited about this.
Yeah, I've got to say that one of the simplest ways that I've seen people do something like this was, we have a Bot Academy member who said, I'm not good at just sending out cold emails to people. I'll just do free training. And he did free training where he showed people how to create a chatbot, like step by step. Here's how to create a chatbot. Go to ManyChat, click this button, do this thing, boop, 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 boop. It's done. And then at the end, he said, if you don't want to do it yourself and you want to hire me, I showed you how to do it. If you want a faster way that's not all these steps that I just showed you, just hire me. And then he gave him a link to that thing. And that is as simple as it can be. Show people what you do, let them learn. Even if they don't buy, they're going to be appreciative. It can be that simple. And again, I've had interviewees on Mixergy, people who I've interviewed about how they built their businesses. Most prominently was Laura Roeder, the woman who now, she did this social media school. And she started out by just click, click, click. Here's how I do social media. Here's how I think about it. Her talking into a mic. It can be that simple. Go to everwebinarfree.com right now. Sign up. And you know what? I appreciate you doing this. I'm going to do a couple of minutes of Q&A.